right, friends.
Yeah, great.
So it's 12:01. We're going to get started. There will be people popping in. I think right now is a good moment to go through and just do quick introductions. There's a lot of great people in this group. You know, I'll just share that I sent this out to our cultural partners and friends, and the response was just incredible. Like, I'm overwhelmed. You know, we had over 40 arts organizations that signed on to have this conversation, and you know, it means a lot to me because I know we're all Zoom fatigued. We're all tired of this shit. Excuse my language, but you know, okay, another Zoom meeting, you know, but I think that this is an opportunity that I would not want to squander. So I'm really grateful to all of you for being here. So if we can just go through and introduce ourselves. I have an agenda, and I'm gonna share it with you guys via the chat box, and then that way we can just kind of get through it. So it's a very basic kind of topics that I just want to cover. We don't have to hit all of them. It's okay if we go off on a tangent. I think this is a moment to just have a salon style conversation with one another about how we can partner up, support each other, be there for each other, and innovate our way through 21 with all of these challenges. So I'll start. Some of you I've known for years and have worked with you, and I love you, and you know, I know you well. Some of you are new friends, and I really value you, and I'm so grateful that you're here. So if we can just start sort of, let's see, in alphabetical order, or why don't I call you out right now since I can see you on my screen? Why don't we start with Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Lowenstein, and I'm a board member of Vanguard, and I'm the secretary of Vanguard and on the board. I guess that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, can you tell me in just 1 or 2 words what you would like to see happen in 2021? I'm gonna ask you all the same question. It related to your industry would be great. Or to our industry or our practice, but it can be anything.
Oh.
Just in a, I put you on the spot. Good luck.
Yeah, you really did. I mean, I'd like to get back to normalcy. That's really all I'm looking for at this point. But as far as my interest in this is just with Vanguard is just really like to focus on fundraising and how we could shake things up a little bit more in 2021. So.
Yeah, thank you. Phil.
Yeah, hi. My name's Phil Johnson. I run the Roustabouts Theater Company, and I am also one of the people in charge of the new San Diego Theater Alliance, which is all the theaters. And something I'd like to see is more people standing up for what's really important.
Thank you. Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Latham. I'm a co-artistic director of Project Blank. And yeah, I don't know, I think that given limitations, I think that sort of sparks greater creativity. And so I'd kind of like to see more organizations push their limits a little bit and kind of really get outside of the fourth wall proscenium style, you know. So that's all, just kind of more innovation.
Nice, more innovation. Thank you. Shaun.
Oh, hi everybody. Shaun Cassidy. I'm the founder of Cassidy Creative Solutions. I've been an early advisor to Vanguard Culture. I remember when she was in her home long before you went out of there. So I'm a very early, yeah, your garage. I'm a very early advisor for Vanguard Culture. I'm a business growth strategist of about 2 decades of experience, and I've worked with a lot of other arts organizations as well as helping them do strategy and development. So I see huge opportunity coming, actually, because I think we're in a major innovation space right now because of the pandemic. So 2021 to me is very exciting. I see a lot of great opportunity coming. And I think it's time to do a lot of very interesting innovation across that and to align strategic partnerships very closely right now in the arts community.
Yeah, thank you. Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Cagan. I'm a former nonprofit executive, including of several arts and culture institutions. and I am currently an advisor to Vanguard Culture. And I think I share what everybody, the sentiment of everybody else, which is that we're looking for increased innovation and increased collaboration among organizations. And I think that's one of the things we're going to be addressing in this session.
Yeah, thank you. Fiona? Hi.
Hi everyone, my name is Fiona Digney. I am the producer and artistic administrator for the Ojai Festival outside of LA, as well as the managing director for Art of Elan in San Diego. You may be able to tell that I'm Australian. I'm also a percussionist, and I ended up in San Diego through doing my doctorate in percussion performance at UCSD, which I just finished. And the thing that I would like to see next year, along the same lines as what everyone's been mentioning in terms of innovation and collaboration, is to create a more sustainable practice for us all that doesn't necessarily rely on performances to make it sustainable. And I would like to try and figure out how we can make our practices within the arts more sustainable, with or without the actual end product of a performance. Obviously, we want to do the performance, but in these times when we haven't been able to do that, or we've had to pivot in a really major way, how can we make ourselves sustainable, both for ourselves and for our communities?
I love that. Thank you. Let's see, Corey.
Hi, I'm Corey Wilbur. I'm a cultural correspondent for Vanguard. I have been for over 2 years now. Wow. And as far as 2021, you know, I obviously would love, you know, things to go back to kind of, you know, go back to normal, be able to like start covering, you know, in-person events again and everything, you know, but obviously like, you know, that we all want that. So I would also just see maybe like to see a little bit more, you know, more connection with maybe some, you know, like Black theater groups.
Yeah. Thank you. Thom.
Hi, y'all. My name is Thom Dancy. I'm the managing director for the Rosin project, which is a contemporary ballet company here in San Diego. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I don't think I know most of the faces in this chat aside from Susanna and Shayla. We are a group that emerged actually in the middle of the pandemic, and we have done a really mighty pivot to make all of our work virtual. Apologies ahead of time. I'm in Liberty Station, and so there are airplanes going overhead if you hear those. But something I'm really curious about for 2020, 2021, as we continue to take all of our work and take it virtual, how can we as a community continue to pivot and, like Leslie was saying, innovate and not necessarily rely on in-person performances as what continues taking us forward?
Yeah, I'm loving this theme going on. Thank you. Victoria.
Morning, afternoon, everyone. I'm the founding director of the City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture, and I wear many hats. Right now, probably the most important one is I'm the president of the Californians for the Arts, California Arts Advocates. And what I would like to see in the future is arts funding continue to grow at the state level and restore city arts funding.
Thank you. Daniela.
Hi, everybody. My name is Daniela Sanchez. I'm one of the PR marketing interns here at Vanguard Culture. And well, for the 2021 year, it's very interesting. I'm very touched with everything, what is happening around the world. And I would like to see this world a better place for women, for BIPOC and LGBTQ Latino community. No more violence of any kind and equal opportunity for all of us. I'm Colombian, so you know my country has that mark. So yeah. I would like to see my country in all of this country, in this world, with that change.
Thank you. Thank you. Well said. Thank you. Jessica, hi, welcome.
Hi, thanks. So I'm Jessica Frank. I'm the program director at the San Diego Diplomacy Council. We create professional, cultural, and educational experiences that connect San Diegans to their counterparts internationally. We partner with the U.S. Department of State to bring these programs to San Diego community. And for 2021, I mean, we've moved our programming online, as has, you know, almost everybody, I think. And we're always looking for new ways to engage and connect, especially locally right now. I feel like it's more important than ever. And then we do have, we are partnering with our national network to offer Expo 2020 Dubai cultural performer opportunities as well, which I could maybe talk about a little more later. But yeah, hopeful that things can get at least a little more back to normal in 2021. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Abby.
Hi, my name is Abby Pacheco. I'm the other marketing and PR intern at Vanguard Culture. And for 2021, I'm really hoping for us as a community to become more united and really fight for like equality more and just be a more loving place. So.
Thank you. Kai?
Hello, I'm Kai Essary. I'm a board member of Vanguard Culture. I'm also an independent curator, and for last year, the Art Prize invited me to kind of refashion the San Diego Art Prize. And so it's going on right now at Bread and Salt until October 24th. And for 2021, it's kind of what I'm working on with the Art Prize and with Vanguard Culture is to bring more public engagement, foment public interest in contemporary art in San Diego. We all are kind of pushing that rock up the hill in San Diego, getting people more involved in the arts. I just see so much potential there. And so I'm really excited about working on it from so many different fronts in San Diego.
Thank you. Shayla?
Hi, Shayla James here. I'm the chair of Rising Arts Leaders. So I'm here as that, but I'm also here as Shayla, the music teaching artist. Wear many hats, but arts educator, advocate, chair. I'd like to see some radical change. I'd like to see some radical equity, intentionality statements, practice. I'd like to see us collaborate in ways that we've not collaborated before. So I'm all for, this is the time to start thinking about how we can reposition ourselves and this community.
Nice, thank you. Let's see, Meridee, hi.
Let me unmute myself. So Susanna, thank you so much for organizing this. This is really, I think this is an amazing opportunity. There are so many new faces on the screen that I don't recognize, which just is exciting because there's a lot of people I know I need to reach out to. So my name is Meridee Book. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director for the Coronado Island Film Festival. And this is our 5th year anniversary. We had huge plans, I'm sure, like most of your organizations for 2020, which have been completely subverted. We are going virtual with our festival this year. And we are doing a few live in-person events at the drive-in. But like most of you, we've had to rethink how we do business and how we approach the art community. And I guess looking into the future of 2021, number one, I'd love to see our theaters open up 100%. I'm not sure how that's going to happen really in the next coming months, but we'll see. Of course, that's our home, is the movie theater. We've moved it outside with pop-up screens. But I think more than anything else, San Diego is such an incredible crossroads of culture and creativity. And I think more and more the collaborative approach is really gaining a lot of momentum. And I think there's so much that each of our organizations can learn and build together with one another. So I'm just looking forward to really just kind of this roundtable discussion and see what everyone else is working on and how we can sort of support you, or might there be an opportunity for you guys to come and partner with our film festival?
Yeah, awesome, thank you. Cece, hi.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Cece. I am fortunate to be a development associate for Vanguard. I'm also an independent grant consultant and the executive director of Hestia, which is a traveling artist residency for female and female identifying artists working across media. As you can guess, with traveling artist residency, because so much of our programming takes place on the road, we've actually decided to suspend all of our programming until 2022. So that was a big decision. And I think in light of that decision as well, what it's really created as an opportunity for us is how can we take everybody that's both on our advisory council and our executive staff and really refocus so that we are collaborating with other residency programs, other nonprofits interested in starting residencies, and working as consultants in that space. So I'm really excited for this opportunity to kind of look at long-term growth and strategy. And I know so many of us are always kind of shifting from the next exhibition to the next event, to the next opening, to the next reading. And you know, trying to lean into what is the positive around what we can have some time and intentionality to build right now. And what are those bigger projects, those multi-month projects for artists that we can now kind of like dream big about finding and acquiring funding for. So I'm always excited to collaborate about resource sharing, fundraising, like in all stripes, and I'm excited to be on the call today.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, Jane.
Hi everybody. I'm Jane Hare, and I'm the president of SD Media Pros, which is a nonprofit. And we are comprised of media professionals of all types: producers, directors, crew, filmmakers, corporate people, independent producers, just everyone involved with media and or audio or multimedia production. And I will say that it is a pleasure to be here today and see so much optimism. The last 6 to 7 months, if I can be candid, have actually been very difficult in our industry. Between the impacts of COVID and AB5, a lot of people are very discouraged and out of work. And so we're trying to figure out, I mean, the whole word pivot is interesting, but there's some practicalities here for us. So not to be a pessimist, I can't wait to hear what some of the ideas are here. Just looking for a return to creative energy, and we're always looking for new ways to do things. And I think one more thing I'll add is that we kept thinking in our organization that it was going to be over. It was going to be a month and 2 months and 6 months. And we only just at our past board meeting decided that we needed to start figuring out how to do 2021 in a whole new way. We were hoping that 2021 we'd go back to where we were. And it looks like that's not going to be the case, at least not right now. So very interested to hear everybody's comments today.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. We were just talking about how important it is to have transparency and vulnerability in this conversation, okay? So Jodi, you're next.
Hi everybody, I'm Jodi Cilley. I'm the founder and president of Film Consortium San Diego. Hi Jane.
Hi Jodi.
I know a couple people here, mainly Jane and Susanna. We produce San Diego Film Week. Like everybody else, we actually, our event was about 6 weeks from the date that the first lockdown was announced. So we had to postpone everything and really reconfigure what we were doing. And honestly, I feel like the last 6 months have been like a forced vacation and a lot of forced introspection and I really feel like a lot of innovation is going to come out of this time. I know Shaun said that originally. I've already seen it. One thing we created very early on was the Quarantine Film Challenge, and we got like 1,100 films from all over the world of people making films in their house. I mean, people figured it out, you know, very quickly. We were getting 100 films a day for a minute there. And so just to sort of see people adjust and still have this creativity coming out has been very inspiring. I feel like a lot of the social justice movement that is happening right now is going to dramatically change 2021, which I'm very much looking forward to. I think, you know, we're all going to come out of this with whole new ways of if we come out of this, you know, eventually come out of this with whole new ways of doing things that we can merge with the ways that we know work, you know, combined with sort of new and interesting and innovative ways. And being someone who's easily bored, I'm really looking forward to kind of the new way things are going to be after, you know, and because of this, you know, worldwide crisis, basically. So happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Oh, one thing I did want to add is an example of collaborations that would have never happened given if this situation didn't happen was that we actually were invited by San Diego International Film Festival to have our festival as part of their festival. So we're local. We produce, our entire festival is basically local films, San Diego made films, Tijuana and San Diego made films. So we were invited to showcase 60 of our San Diego and Tijuana made films in this much bigger, much more, we'll say, I'm not gonna say much more successful, a much wider audience, you know, international filmmakers, international films. And then the audience that they have here in San Diego is very different than the one we have. So just this situation forced that collaboration, which for us was such a huge opportunity to bring our local films to a much wider market, and just really looking forward to more opportunities like that. And I see this as a great call as a good starting place for that.
Yeah, that's what should be happening. In my mind, that's what should continue happening, is a lot of these same industry cross collaborations where the smaller groups are supported by the larger, and vice versa, because you're both growing audiences by doing so. Miguel, there you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Miguel. I work with Vanguard Culture and I'm a cultural correspondent as well as the events manager. Obviously the last position has changed and been altered profoundly with our times at the moment. So what I also do is I also work in criminal defense on the investigator and interpreting side of things. So in advance, I'm letting everyone know that I have to cut out at 1:15. But I was really interested in joining this discussion so that I can listen. And I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most during this period in all of our lives, is how everybody's sensitivity has changed from the social consciousness to the individual level to the artistic. And I'm seeing that across the board, and I'm really interested in what that's going to look like and what the product and potential outcome of it is going to be. They say that in moments of profound isolation, we become a lot more receptive and sensitive to things going on around us, and hungry, for collaboration and connection. So I think that this is a time when we can pause and really discover ourselves, not only on the individual level, but as a group and as a community. And I think that's what's driving me and keeping me mostly upbeat these days. Sometimes it's hard, of course, and that's okay. That's natural. It's natural that we go up and down. And so that's why I think it's important that we have this space and this discussion. And I thank everyone for joining us.
Thank you. Nancy, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I am driving. I'm Nancy Richards. I do the marketing and PR for North Coast Repertory Theater in Solana Beach. And if you haven't heard from us, it means I'm not doing my job well. I have been at the theater now for almost 7 years. Before that, I worked on Broadway marketing over 150 shows over like a 20-year period. So I've been in the theater my whole life. And I think it's great that we started the Theater Alliance, and I didn't even realize how many theaters there are in San Diego. And all these arts performing organizations that are here. This is an amazing city to live in and what we produce. And I would love to see more integration, if possible, between all the different types of arts out here in 2021. I'd also like to see community engagement. I want to support small businesses as well as them supporting the arts in some fashion. keep everybody alive. And I also want to figure out how we can promote ourselves nationally, because we do so much here. And when I first moved here, I had no idea. And I would love to put our arts community on the map the way Legoland and SeaWorld is, and get tourism and just people. I mean, now that we could do it, you know, on an online streaming way, you know, to see more people know and acknowledge the arts in San Diego. So that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you said that, because I think that's the shift that has, for our organization, been the most valuable, is that going digital has broadened our audiences, where we've had national and international attendees to our events that we never would have had otherwise. And so there's actually a beauty to this moment where, you know, if you do something that, and I'm not calling our programming excellent necessarily, but you know, if you create excellence, it can be seen and shared and shared and shared, and it multiplies. And so there's a beauty to the digital space right now that we can definitely take advantage of. Let's see, Jack, are you there?
Yes, hi, I'm Jack Lample. I guess I would call myself a multimedia artist, but my main work is around group dynamics, and in particular, the unconscious and covert things that go on in groups. And I've worked with a number of arts organizations and psychology organizations and religious organizations to see basically what it is in a group that can be creative and destructive at the same time. And so I'm particularly interested in this moment in time and this sort of collaborative thing that's emerging with all these organizations. What is being created individually and collectively, and how do we connect to what's going on socially, culturally, economically? And so I'm here as an observer just to watch and see what happens, and it's an honor to be part of this wonderful group.
Thank you. And Jack is an advisor and a friend to Vanguard Culture, so thank you for being here, and a big supporter as well. Thank you. Keith.
Hi, I'm Keith Mountainer, and I'm a board member of Vanguard Culture. And this particular time of year especially, I miss live performances on stage in front of a live audience. The dynamic and the interaction, the communication that takes place, two-way communication that takes place in that environment is really hard to replicate online. And I'm watching so this time of year normally has a lot of music festivals that I like to go to in different parts of the country, Bonnaroo and Austin City Limits, and Harley Strictly Bluegrass in the Bay Area, you know, just all over the country. And they're all shut down this year, of course, and they've all reacted in different ways, as well as the other thing that I've been doing recently online is watching local theater groups and how they've all pivoted, and everybody's experimenting and everybody's doing new stuff and trying it out to varying levels of success. And it's all, even the stuff that doesn't work in the moment is fun and engaging, and you know, you laugh through it, and you know, I don't know how it is from the other side for an artist, but as an audience member, it's just wonderful to see things not going off perfectly, because the opportunity for rehearsal, for example, isn't there like it used to be. And so everybody's winging it to a certain extent, but they're being creative, and I love that aspect of it. But what I miss the most and what I'm looking forward to is being able to be in the same room as performers, you know, whether they're, you know, actors and actresses or singers or musicians or what have you.
Yeah, thank you. And Keith is on our board of directors. Christy.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Christy. I'm the founder and chief muse of Be Creative Zone. We are an eco-art, STEAM-loving organization. We mix the arts and environmental stewardship for funky art projects, upcycling and repurposing. And so I'm listening to all of you, and I'm like, we're loving this time. I mean, this is the basis for creativity. When things are a little chaotic and it's not so easy, it's like, it's like the muse comes out and we get creative. So Be Creative is really it's exciting. I'm watching this, I'm listening to you guys, and I'm so excited for what's going to get created for 2021 and beyond, and doing new things. And so it's exciting to listen to all this. So thank you for including me and be creative.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And looks like Camille just joined us. So Camille, you're, hi. We were just doing introduction. We just finished up introductions, but I do want to give you the opportunity if you could just introduce yourself and then tell us one thing in a few short words that you would like to see happen in 2021 related to your industry.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I'm late. I just was teaching this morning and like logged off and logged back on here. Also, I have a broken foot right now, so I'm coming to you from when my parents are helping me. So I'm staying with them, coming to you from my old childhood bedroom. So anyway, I thought the door was closed, but it's not. Anyway, so if there's just my parents come in, that's why. Anyway, so I'm sorry. So I'm Camille McPherson. I'm a professional soloist dancer with the San Diego Ballet. I also run the education outreach coordinator for the San Diego Ballet. I teach ballet. I've been teaching online now. And I'm also a steering committee member of Rising Arts Leaders San Diego. I'm the programming committee co-chair. So thank you so much.
And can you just share one thing that you're looking forward, that you would like to see happen in 21?
Yeah, I think for ballet, normally we would have performances in theaters with all of these people crowded into small indoor spaces, and that's obviously just not going to be feasible going forward for a little while. So I would just love to see opportunities to perform outside, where the audience can socially distance. And I think that we have spaces for that in San Diego. It's just, it's not something we usually explore, but I think that if there's a city that can do that, it's San Diego, because the weather is nice all year round. So I hope that we can continue to have performances that are shifted to outside spaces with room for the audience to socially distance. And I think it can happen. I think it just needs to, just the administrators need to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, that'll take some support from the city as well, to open up non-traditional spaces as well. So let's get into it. I will say, we just spent 30 minutes on introductions, and I knew that was going to happen. I scheduled it on the agenda, and I'm sorry that the agenda for some of you are not able to open it up, but it's very simple. I tried to copy paste it and it wouldn't let me either, so I don't know what to tell you. But we're first of all, what is this, right? We usually do this every year as we're programming our 2021 season. Some of you have participated in these little gatherings before. In the past, we've offered you wine and charcuterie and, thanked you for your time, and it was very casual and friendly, and we all got to do that. But of course, we can't feed you, but we do hope that you walk away with a different type of nourishment today. All of you have engaged with us in different ways. Some of you through our arts journalism, some through our events, some through our professional development programs. So, our mission is to advance the creative industries of San Diego, and we do that in those three ways. And so we feel a deep responsibility to support the creative sector right now. Our ego hurts a little bit this year because we were not able to produce all of the events that we are known for. A lot of people know us for our events, and so I'm working on that. So we want to produce something really spectacular, really memorable, collaborative, of course, in 2021. So I just want it to be said that even though the focus of today's conversation will not necessarily be about a specific event that you and I are going to work on today, let it be said that we want to work with all of you here in this room to produce something really spectacular in 2021. So I want to voice that even though we're not going to necessarily we're not going to walk away today saying, oh, on April 27th in 2021, this will happen. That's not happening, and it's never happened at any of our little charcuterie gatherings or whatever. This is the moment to just be here, listen to one another, share ideas, share resources, dream big. Okay, so let's just set up some, I'll say this, when the pandemic hit in March, our organization had a whole season already planned. We canceled everything, all of our events. But we shifted, at least half of them actually ended up shifting to a virtual, and then we went into overdrive. So instead of taking a step back, we went crazy and programmed over a dozen events in 7 months. It's been intense. Mostly professional development programs that are designed to help creatives make a living during this time, or have a business mind about their practice, know how to market themselves, do their taxes, all sorts of stuff. But what we've realized, in these last 7 months is, we're only 7 months into this. And it's very likely that we have another year to go. Let's be frank, right? Another year of these closures, of this uncertainty, of this stress, of the anxiety, everything that we are living through right now, it's not going away anytime soon. And specifically, if I want to focus on the arts industries, it's nice to be hopeful. I'm a super hopeful person. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm the worst idealist. Like, I literally wrote my thesis on neo-idealism. Like, that's what my core. But I'm also very pragmatic. I love logistics and contracts and insurance and checklists and schedules. Like, I'm a person that gets things done. I like to get things done. So when I dream, I'm dreaming very pragmatically. And in order to do those types of things, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be honest with yourself, and really think through the conditions that will allow the project to happen. And if you lie to yourself about it, then it's not going to work, right? And so because we are 7 months into this, Nancy was just mentioning that in the New York Times, they said that Broadway won't open up till June, but I think that's, it's actually probably not going to open up till the fall, if at all. And that's being more honest, right? I think we all could have benefited from an administration that was more honest with us in March, right? To say literally, hey, this is a deadly disease, lock down for 3 weeks, and we will get out of this. But instead it was linger, 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 and here we are. And it's going to continue that way because if we do get a new president, or if I don't want to talk about that. I'm going to get all stressed out. But there's a lot of unraveling to do. Either way. So let's be vulnerable today, okay? Let's be vulnerable today. Let's be honest with our actual needs, with our actual fears and resources, and how we can really get there. Now, there's one quote that I just want to share with you that right at the beginning of the pandemic happened during one of our story circles. It was our friend Roxana Velasquez from SDMA. I can't get it out of my head. I couldn't get it out of my head all year. But she said, related to the pandemic, she said, we are being given a masterclass for humankind. So just as the pandemic is revealing the worst in us, it also reveals the best in us. And we should never squander a crisis. And I cannot get that quote out of my mind. We should not ever squander a crisis. So here we are, we've been given this moment, a forced pause, the great pause, some people are calling it. And I love some of the comments that you all made about, it's an opportunity for us to revision our goals and all of it. So let's set up some expectations, some goals and expectations. Number one, this is a safe place, right? It's a safe space. We should all agree on that. We're not going to judge each other or critique each other or walk away talking about the vulnerabilities of another organization. This is going to stay here. Whatever is talked about here stays here. Okay. Number two, please do what you can to be present. I know that it's very tempting to check emails and check texts and Facebook and do all of that stuff, but if we really want to have a meaningful dialogue, I think it's important to be as present as you can. And I understand my kids might run into the room at any point. You might have a dog or a pet or whatever. I get it. It's all good. They're welcome. Put them on your lap. Okay. But but let's try to be present. Pretend that we are in this room and you have a glass of wine and charcuterie in front of you. And I keep saying that, but we would do that, you know, and be present. Let's be present. And the third thing is we all come from very, very different industries. So let's agree that we will not disrespect someone else's livelihood. This is their entire life, you know, just like, you know, theater is life. Theater is my life. Dance is my life. Film is life, right? We all feel that about the thing that we chose to spend our world in. So let's agree that we're not going to disparage anybody else's, you know, livelihood in these conversations. So I'm hoping that we can all agree on that. Thank you. So let's break it down. I'm going to ask a series of questions. And you don't have to answer every question every time. Thank you guys. Thank you for agreeing that. You don't have to answer every question. You can speak up if you want to raise your hand. I'll call on you to have a verbal conversation, or you can answer in the chat box. Our wonderful interns, Abby and Daniela, are actually taking notes for us today. And my hope is that we can come out with a document potentially that it becomes a resource to all of you. And so if you share anything that you think may be valuable to the group, please add it in the chat box so that they can just copy and paste that information elsewhere, and then and people can find use in it. So what I wanted to add, my first question is big dreams. Let's talk about your big dreams, okay? What would you produce, create, program with unlimited resources, with unlimited challenges? What is that big thing, that big dream that you've always wanted to do, but you have found limitations, either pre or during COVID? Does anybody have a share? I'll tell you our dream in 21. Oh, there you go, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say something. We've tried to use this time to the absolute best of our advantage. The New Theater Alliance is something that grew out of COVID and the George Floyd catastrophe that happened. We are taking this time to put theaters together when they haven't been for quite a long time. There hasn't been discussion between all the theaters in San Diego County, from the Playhouse and the Globe to the very smallest new theaters of like Common Ground. It's a Black ensemble in Golden Heights. And we have taken a real commitment to developing leaders of color in our group, a real commitment to equity, equality, to getting resources to small theaters that don't have them from the larger theaters that do. This is a world that, when you talk about what would you like to see, I feel like we are trying to build that right now with our group. So actually the quarantine has been a very creative time for us. Very.
Yeah. Do you have a big pie in the sky? Was that your pie in the sky dream, or was it sort of something that came about that was unexpected, or had you been thinking about that?
Not until it happened, but we started, there was a small group that started called One Theater, One Story that tried to get connection. Everyone lost jobs, lost purpose. So, and there were a couple things that were put out and that were blind to some things. There were no leaders of color in our group at that time, and we got slammed for it. And it was an eye-opening situation for, I think, pretty much everyone in the group. So a bunch of us kind of pushed through and decided there would be an organization that would use those as a cornerstone. Mm-hmm. And I am hoping that it keeps going the way that we're trying to, we work on every week, a very committed group of people to get mentorship and resources to the small theaters that need, somebody mentioned, I'd love to see a theater of color. Exactly, why don't you? And that's something that we're looking at, is trying to get marketing and website work to small theaters of color, and that's what we're doing in our group.
Thank
you. I got an email recently from La Jolla Playhouse, and it started out with the usual boilerplate about how important these times are and how they're working towards racial equity. And you know, I don't mean to diminish it, but when I say the word boilerplate, but I've seen a lot of these. And then there's a link to like, these are our commitments that we're making over the next few years. And I clicked on the link and I started reading it, and it was jaw-dropping. The commitments they were making towards people of color and towards developing artists that have had no, you know, previously would have been locked out of opportunity. And it was, you know, a major theater in town making what I felt to be very, very powerful commitments. And I don't know if that's part of the alliance, but go alliance if that's what's happening, if that's a result of those efforts.
They are doing their own program. But all of the big theaters are doing, I believe, a program as well. But all of them are deeply involved in what we're doing. The people from the Playhouse especially, the people from the Rep especially. So it's kind of an across-the-board commitment.
So I use the Theater Alliance as an example often when I'm having conversations with people about how to get it done. I've been talking about you guys a lot because, you know, Vanguard Culture, we're really lucky because I'll say this: we started the organization because I found that people they work in these silos, right? We all work in these little silos in San Diego, right? So there's like the dance silo, the film, theater, dance, you know, performing arts, or excuse me, music, visual arts. Even museum people don't really hang out with gallerists necessarily. I mean, like even within the same sort of general genres. And then there's silos inside of the silos. So, you know, dance companies, it's rare when they collaborate and intersect. We're very lucky because we actually get to intersect with all of you. And so we find these, I think that the reason that we've had any kind of success is because we are very active and very purposeful when it comes to bringing together creative industries that typically never intersect. Because there's so much comes out of that. The sharing of resources that happens there, you know, it's really hard, especially now during COVID, for us to, you know, with a little flag, like, come see my show, please, you know, come buy my art. Everybody's fighting for the same little, you know, their little struggle. But look at the people in this room, right? I mean, we have an incredible amount of resources sitting in this room even right now. And then we've got a second session with twice as many people. I'm not even sure how we're gonna get through the introductions, you know, but what I would love to see happen is something similar as to the Theater Alliance, but in every industry. So like, I know that there's the Film Consortium, clearly, but maybe a like next level kind of experience. And same thing, you know, with the visual arts, where we're not just hanging out together, but actually actively sharing resources and cross-promoting each other's work. You know, there's a myth to think that there isn't enough to go around, or that audiences are, that you have to be proprietary about your audiences or something like that. You don't. You know, a theater person will experience theater in all its forms. And so will, you know, a film person that loves the Asian Film Festival will also really love the Latino Film Festival. There's programming there for that person, you know? And so I'm giving you examples like that, where you can collaborate in the same industry, like the chamber music community and the film community and all of those things, but also across industry. So, I mean, I'd love for us to sort of just take a moment and imagine what it would feel like if all of us walked away from this call today in service of another organization. Like, what would that look like if all of us just said, okay, what are I mean, let's talk about resources, right? So here's our resources that we are openly wanting to share with you, okay? We don't have a lot of money, but we have reach, and that's what we can offer you. So right now during the pandemic, our website is receiving between, you know, 8,000 and 9,000 visits a month on the website. We have about 15,000 subscribers on our newsletter that are followers of arts and culture in San Diego. It's a very niche audience. You know, these are we like to call them culturally savvy people, because they care about receiving information about film and theater and dance and live music and visual arts and all of it, instead of just being this, you know, only film audience or only theater audience, etc. We have an incredible team of collaborators. You know, that's something that we can offer you. We are very connected because our advisory team, our advisory board and our board of directors and our cultural correspondents all come from very different backgrounds, ethnicities, backgrounds, you know, interests, professions, all of that, because we have such a diverse body of people on our team. If you're looking for somebody that knows a lot about film, we have somebody that you can talk to. If you want to know something, you know, about theater, we can connect you with that person, you know, like that. So those are the types of resources that we have. We also, you know, currently have a venue. Unfortunately, it can't be used right now because we've decided not to do, you know, in-person programming. But in normal times, we have a venue that is free that you may use in 22 and going forward if you're starting to think about programming for 22. It's a beautiful space. The Idea One building is gorgeous. It has a film screen where you can do, you know, screenings. They do movie nights there regularly on Friday nights, full surround sound system. It has a floor that has a little bit of give so it doesn't hurt dancers' joints. So we have an office space that again is not being used right now. So those are the types of things that I'd love for us to just share. Like, what are the resources that you have as an organization that you would be willing to share with another organization that costs you very little or nothing or next to nothing to release, you know, to share with another group. So if you can add that in the chat box, we'd love to add it to a spreadsheet, you know, or, you know, what do you have? Do you have a big list? Do you have a big contact list? Would you be willing to share some of those contacts? Not all of them. You know, imagine if all of us here, you know, right now we're all struggling with finding audiences, right? With reaching new audiences, we're talking about sustainability and survival, right? If each of us offered, you know, 2,000 of our contacts that are the most active, and if you have them categorized, whatever, you know, that cumulative list could be an incredible resource for all of you. And we'd be happy to receive those and put them together into one list and then share them out to the people involved in this group. And I'm happy to, you know, collect the same responses from session 2, which has double the amount of individuals participating. So that's a way where we can all like diversify our reach, diversify our audiences, be introduced to new communities. You know, that's an idea, for example. So if you can share just in the chat box, please take a moment to think about what are the resources. Do I have a venue? I mean, an example would be a museum that used to rent their space for bar mitzvahs and weddings and is no longer receiving that revenue. The building is still there. They're not getting the money anyway. And meanwhile, you have a small dance company that needs a space that is cool and interesting to produce their dance film project, for example. Or a spoken word group, you know, that wants a space that has a beautiful background or whatever. That venue, it probably wouldn't cost them very much to open up the doors for a couple hours for them or offer them the space for a couple hours. It doesn't cost them anything and they're not making money off of that venue anyway. So that's an example. I welcome your thoughts here.
If I can, I'd like to just speak a little bit actually of your first question and this current question. So since I'm here as Rising Arts Leaders, I would also want to say that a lot of our stakeholders in our audience are emerging arts professionals, arts and culture professionals, so artists, arts administrators, and we know that these people have been very much affected by COVID. You know, arts gigs have been canceled, admin jobs have been lost, people have been laid off. So that's a very, very vulnerable sector. And so my pie in the sky would be like, with unlimited money, it's just like paying these people for doing the things that they do, being responsive to what their needs are, whether it be for paying rent, for artist supplies, help with the project, transportation to get to an opening, you know, like these are very, very real things. And so the pie in the sky would be like, how can we just like pay these people to do what they've been doing, what they want to do? And so then to your current question, resources, I think that since Rising Arts Leaders has this viewership and this audience, we've been trying, I think that if you are looking for like a muralist, or you're looking for a piano teacher, or you're looking for someone for an event, like we have those people, and those people would gladly like to have a conversation with you, because they would be very much willing to, you know, discuss like, oh, you know, you have a birthday party, you know, like, okay, do you need music? Do you need a visual artist for something? Do you need dance? You know, like, so I think I'd like to offer that. And the thing I'd also add to that though is like making sure that you're still compensating people for their time and efforts. So that I, as a person of color, want to speak on behalf of other people of color, and also as an emerging arts professional, that compensation is awesome. Yeah. Collaboration is awesome, but compensation is also awesome. Yeah. So just wanted to add that.
I think we can all agree in here, you know, exposure, you can die from exposure. Like we pay our artists. I don't pay myself, by the way, but we pay our artists and our contractors and, you know, others. But yeah, this is not, no volunteerism necessary here. But I love that you said that, because that is that cultural capital, that is a resource, you know, having a variety of emerging artists and creatives that are available to enhance your projects, right? If you're looking for, if you already have, you know, a performing arts sort of like your opera project, for example, Leslie, you know, perhaps you are interested in finding a BIPOC dancer that could, you know, make it just a little extra, for example, for your next project. Or, you know, who else is it here? Fiona, you know, you've got this wonderful, you know, a round robin type of performing arts series coming up, and potentially you could create something in the future that isn't, or I haven't looked at your entire season, but maybe there is something in your season, for example, that needs a visual arts component, or, you know, so I love that Shayla brought that up. Any other thoughts about that? Okay, we'll move on to the next. So yeah, again, we're trying to create a document that will be useful to all of you. So please, in the chat box, make sure that you're sharing with us any sort of resources that you have available as an organization that can be shared with this group. You know, we're walking in here with an open heart and a sharing heart. We want to try to support each other. So let's keep it there. So let's talk about lost revenue. Do you guys have any lost or canceled programs that may be gone forever? Has that happened for anybody that are not coming back? No, okay, good. Let's talk about, just very quickly, the social unrest. Has it altered your worldview regarding racism in America? Has your organization taken any steps or plan to take any steps to amplify underrepresented voices? Has it affected you in any way where it's going to now affect your programming?
I can say something to that. When I took over the San Diego Art Prize last year, the first thing I did was look at the committee and realize that there was no diversity. So the first thing that I really pushed for is we need to bring committee members in that reflect more of the diversity. 3 more members are advisory board members, which I think is going to, am I cutting out?
You paused for a little bit, but if you can just repeat your last sentence, we can hear you.
So yeah, we're just working towards that, having diversity on the committee so that everyone has a voice, and there's many more people with different things in the different communities. To answer your pie in the sky question, I mean, it's kind of a funny thing to be thinking about right now with COVID and everything being cut back, and people just trying to survive or barely surviving. But when I came to the prize, the one thing that I thought was so important about it is how it can bring awareness of contemporary art and culture in San Diego. And so my pie in the sky is to one day have a big cash prize for those 4 artists to support them on their trajectory. And coincidentally, that would also bring more interest and excitement to contemporary art in San Diego, because in the media it's like, oh, money, and they get excited, and then people get curious. And I had read that the Turner Prize, when it started in '86, there was no market for contemporary art in the UK at all. Nobody cared. And overnight, that prize, because it had a big cash prize, I mean, it's really not, it doesn't sound like that much now. It's, I think, around 45,000. But it created a market overnight for contemporary art, and now it's thriving. So artists are thriving, contemporary artists who are alive now, there's a market for it, and that helps them across the board. And so my pie in the sky is, I want to work towards finding that for San Diego. But interestingly enough, all the grants I've looked into, I mean, no one's really interested in giving a chunk of money to an artist. It's more, so if anyone knows some way of researching something about that, I'm digging into it. But that's something that I think would really help help San Diego, and it's bringing general public interest into the arts and culture in San Diego, is little things like that. So.
Yeah, I think money goes a long way. It sounds like partnership opportunities are key. And I'll just mention really quick, you know, we happen to have an incredible partnership with a developer who in the arts world is usually seen, you know, like the bad guy, right? However, we have this partnership, and we've been able to produce, typically an event costs us $3,000 to $5,000 for the rental of the venue just to open the door, and then production costs on top of that for us to hopefully break even. That's pretty standard for small nonprofits that don't already have a space. And because of this partnership, we were able to produce, you know, over a dozen events in a year with zero cost to us. And it was all, you know, it was all benefit. And that was done through a partnership with a non-arts organization. So, you know, there are venues out there, there are organizations out there that are not necessarily arts organizations or even arts supporters, but your values can align. And those values can take you to that next step where you can create, you know, relationships. So I would be thinking about people who need attention, who are I guess, you know, last thing I'll say is, you know, the community that we're in benefited from it, we benefited from it, and then they look like a great cultural partner, like a supporter of the arts. And so there's a beauty to that, about thinking outside of the box of like who you can partner with that can either bring, you know, cash funding to your project because they believe in the idea of it, and also because it's going to bring a lot of attention to their organization, or a venue, or there's lots of types of alliances that can happen. Meridee, I think I saw you raise your hand. Did you have something to say?
Yeah. So, yeah, I was going to say now I'm on other topics, but, you know, in terms of things that just kind of piggybacking off of what you just said too, in the corporate world, and really, I guess, pulling together unlikely, you know, partnerships is, you know, artists have been sort of the unsung heroes of the pandemic. The first thing that people have turned to in order to connect through, you know, Zoom is either music, watching film, you know, everybody's Netflixed out, you know, I mean, there's so many different avenues. You have live music concerts that have been live streaming, theater productions. And what I'm finding, at least in, you know, the film arena, is that there's a lot of organizations that want to and have been reaching out to us in order to use the medium of film to reach their constituents, for lack of a better word. You know, it's case in point, we're partnering, you know, I don't know if you guys have seen on Netflix the show Social Dilemma, that we were contacted by a group called SAFE that deals with, you know, teenagers and how they respond to things. And they wanted to put a panel together to address this, but with a lot of mental health, you know, people on the panel and different aspects of that. So there's a lot of opportunity when you think out of the box that you may not even realize might be a way to collaborate. And once you kind of connect with people like that, it really becomes sort of word of mouth. I mean, I think with film, we're very fortunate in that there is a film made for almost every topic under the sun. And with the cinematic storytelling and documentaries and even creative narratives, there's an opportunity for people to tell their story. For us, we are, we're very, I would say, bipartisan or apolitical in our film festival, because we want to amplify everyone's voice, and we let the film and the creativity and the message speak for itself. It really comes down to a matter of the quality of the film, and if the calibers of the film is what, we would expect to showcase it in our festival. But going, addressing sort of the diversity question and what we would need to improve, it's really allowing the platform to amplify those voices. I mean, Coronado, by and large, is a very different demographic. It's a highly affluent demographic, but it's also a very well-traveled demographic, and a lot of people are very open-minded to listening to different points of view. And they also have a tendency to travel in terms of, they will travel for something, whether it's a concert or a theatrical production here or abroad. So it's very culturally diverse. So I get excited. I stepped into the film festival last year, and I've just noticed that the whole cross-pollinating, and I know, Susanna, we talked about this before, bringing in a live production or live music, everything that you can do that enhances the actual experience for attendees is sort of our goal. And talking about dreams, that's really what I'd like to see. I'd like to see our festival be more than film, but film is the capstone, but you're experiencing everything else along with that. It is a sensory overload experience. And before a film starts, you might have a music, you might have, a musical performance as you're coming into theater, waiting for the film to start. If you're walking down the street in between our venues, we're a walkable film festival. We're the only pedestrian film festival in San Diego, when you can walk from the theater to a restaurant, to the Spreckles Center. And in between that we had musicians on the street corner, and, people that have nothing to do with our festival are stopped and wanted to see the performers. And then they ask, what are we doing? So I think this whole idea of collaboration and bringing in all these artistic endeavors really not only represent, I think, the best of what San Diego has to offer culturally, but it also just enhances, at least from our experience, and I'm sure everyone else, the whole entire experience that we're offering everybody. We get a lot of people that travel from out of the country to come to our festival, and the Hotel Del is our presenting sponsor, and to be able to have access to an international audience in a very small window, I just love the idea of everyone coming together to do that, and we're working really hard to broaden, I think, our curated films. So we're still new, and people are still finding us, and that is one of our goals. And I know in the creative world, everyone works in different silos, but when you're creative, you sort of cross over all of those. People who love film also love dance. They also love theater. They also love, the culinary arts. That's another big aspect of our festival. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to, use all of that and constantly, like you were saying, Susanna, what are the resources? And I think there's quite a bit. But I love the idea of this roundtable, and I can go on and on about different ways to collaborate, but we're definitely open to it. But for our festival, we're new. We need to do a better job of diversity and amplifying the filmmakers. You guys hear a lot about the entertainment industry and what's going on, and the Academy has really Well, they've had to rethink the rules. They've also had to rethink the Academy Awards. It's been pushed back to April. It's absolutely affected our industry 100% in terms of what's being released in our schedule. And the entertainment industry is going to come out of this very different than before the pandemic. But I think those are exciting changes. So there's just a lot going on, but I just welcome any of you that want to reach out. I'd love to talk to you about some opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, ways when we talk about creative collaboration, and it's, everybody does it differently, right? So let me say, and we've had so many conversations through the years with people, creative collaboration, I wouldn't call creative collaboration like, okay, I'm putting together an event and now I'm going to hire a dancer and hire a visual artist and hire this to do the thing that I'm asking. So that's not creative collaboration, right? We can agree on that. Creative collaboration are those individuals that you are inspired by, bringing them to the table and having this type of dialogue to say, how can we work together? What is the thing that you've always wanted to do that I've never thought about? What would you do if you were in charge of, this event? Those kinds of conversations, and just letting them, creating a space for that type of dialogue and then seeing what comes out of it. So that's how our events have come about, where, we've had events, for example, where we put together, a poet and a scientist and an artist and a chef and said, create something inspired by climate change. And each person had their own interpretation of that. And it was wonderful. We've had events where we had, silent film being shown. And then we brought in a chef to, interpret her version of some of the films. And she created like a variety of different flavors of popcorn that included savory things and sweets. And it was just like bizarro, but cool. And it was interactive. And, so I love the idea of creative collaboration, so long as the voices are at the table are heard, and those collaborations happen very intentionally. And also so that the benefit that we have found is that, when we're collaborating with another organization to produce an event, both of us have skin in the game. Right? If I would have just hired them to do a project, then I'm the only one working really, really hard to promote this damn thing, right? Here I am all by myself. Come on, guys, come to my thing, buy my ticket, do my whatever. And instead, when both of us have skin in the game for the event to be successful, then we're both promoting like crazy. And if you bring in a third organization, then it really goes nuts, right? So, and more than 3 and 4, and that's happened to us before, where we've worked together with lots of organizations. I mean, we had an event, it was sort of like our blockbuster kickoff event to our residency at Idea One. We had over 550 attendees. 80% of them were creative industry professionals, and so we took over 15 condominium lofts, and 80 artists transformed these 15 condo lofts into these immersive visual and performing arts experiences, all themed around the 5 senses. That event was featured on the National Geographic Channel. It was one of the coolest things we've ever done. But the reason I bring it up is because all those 80 artists were promoting, come to this thing. They all had sort of skin in the game, We didn't make any money off of it. We kind of like barely broke even, but we created the space where they could, because we had this free space, we were able to create a location for them to express their work, to be shown. Some artwork was sold and they got to keep 100% of all that. We paid the performers that were involved and all of that. But so, thinking about creative collaboration differently is something that I would just like really encourage you to do, because there is that beauty of the sharing. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about technology, because I know that we have some real tech savvy people here today. I want to get Thom to talk a little bit about what you've been doing, because I just think it's like, I'm a big fan of people who go big, like who, I tend to gravitate toward people who take big risks, even if it's a failure, and yours was not a failure, but even if it's a total failure, like today, for example. And before I get to Thom, I'll just say this. Today, one of our good friends from the San Diego Opera was supposed to be here, Ed Walensky. And as you may know, they're doing a drive-in La Boheme And, you know, I can't imagine the stress levels of trying to produce this thing when we know that, you know, singing and turns your droplets into aerosol and spreads. And so the rehearsal process must have been just incredibly, you know, stressful, and the PPE involved in such a thing, and the logistics of staffing it and volunteers and all of that. So today he was supposed to be here, and at the last minute he was told by somebody, I think this, not the CDC, but some like local health agency, that they had to, you know, test everybody within this period of time, and it had to happen, you know, today at noon. So he would have been here to have that conversation, but these are the types of logistics that we are now all going to have to live through, right? So technology, people who I believe have been very successful at pivoting to technology. Thom, I think you are one of the best representations of that right now during COVID. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. Apologies again, everyone, in a public space with planes and music. So I will try my best to speak loudly. Just write if you can't hear me, and I'll respond in the chat. Sweet. So yeah, the Rosin Project was previously a summer-based contemporary ballet company, and we had an entire season planned out. COVID hit, and my founder and artistic director Carly and we both have marketing and social media backgrounds. So we have a background in technology, but we became really, really quickly focused on how we can pivot. And it was one of those things that there was an initial panic attack of, you know, a couple of weeks of me on my couch, just like sweating buckets, not really sure what we would be doing. But we ended up producing an entirely virtual season this past summer. And we amended our budget post-COVID, but we actually ended up exceeding our pre-COVID budget for the year in ticket sales because we pivoted virtually. And I think what we were able to prove to ourselves is with very thoughtful virtual action, you can maintain your constituency, you can bring people back into the theater, but you have to treat it the same way that you treat people when they go to see a live show. It can't just be throwing something on Zoom and expecting them to respond to it. And so we created a virtual 360-degree promenade dance experience at the 10th Avenue Arts Center that we streamed from our online ticket platform that we call the Virtual Box. And people were able to buy tickets for $50 or $35 at the $50 level. People were able to also get a quarantine cocktail kit and a 3D VR headset that we mailed to your address to experience the production, because we felt like it was really important, not just that you watch, but that you get to feel a little bit like you're a part of it. We asked people to submit photos of them enjoying their cocktails. We asked people to dress up. People dressed up in fun masquerade gear, wearing masks at home, and sent us videos and photos that we then put online as a part of a fun, like, thank you for being a part of this with us. But the technological side of it, our artistic director, Carly, purchased a 360-degree camera that we then attached to like sort of a GoPro on someone's head. And it was a board member of ours, and he actually wandered the space. And you could see different dances in different rooms. It was very Sleep No More, if you're familiar with that idea out of New York City. And the idea is that you could literally pivot your phone and see different things happening. And we laid all these various quote unquote Easter eggs in spaces, telling people to go back, watch it again, see things that you missed. And it ended up being this really highly successful event. The second thing that we did recently, we launched a live streamed August series of shows from our home at the 10th Avenue. And while we were doing this, so it was live every night, our board chair spoke at the top. We had live performances, dancers on stage in masks dancing. We also premiered a work by Donnie Duncan of Netherlands Dance Theater. When we pivoted and we realized you can do all this cool stuff with technology, we were like, oh, so I can actually hire a choreographer from anywhere, and they can zoom in and work with us from anywhere. That's awesome, right? And so we actually hired this man from the dance equivalent of the Rolling Stones to come in via Zoom and create a piece of work on the company. And it premiered in this August series. So again, what we've really tried to do is just really think as outside of the box as possible and really focus on, you know, how can we pivot? What if we don't treat this as like, what if we don't treat this with fear and we just jump forward and we say, okay, so this is a fun idea. What can we do with this? And it really is something I think, you know, as we continue our discussions, we know that live is what people want. This is a performing art. It's important for it to be live and in person. And eventually when things go back to normal in a year and a half, in 2 years, you know, we have to recognize that that virtual shift is going to go back to in person. But we really want to always maintain the ability to connect with audiences now on a national level, like what we've done. We actually just also launched a virtual subscription. So for $25 a month, you can now watch all of our dance films, sort of like Dance Netflix. And we have stuff rotating in and out of this virtual platform that you can watch every month. We're going to be doing artist interviews with famous dancers. We're actually having a board meeting tomorrow where we're discussing more creative things that we can add and incentivize. But kind of the sky is the limit right now. And a lot of it, you know, beyond Carly and myself being social media people, has also been learning curves and not being afraid to just learn new technology. We've kind of adapted what a lot of you guys I'm sure have done, which is saying, okay, so I don't know this, I'll just Google it. I'll Google it, I'll figure it out in a couple of hours. Great, it's done. And doing that has kind of been our godsend of, okay, so I don't know how to run a GoPro camera, but I'll figure it out and I'll make it happen. And it's one of those things that I'm definitely happy to talk to anybody in this group about with your own programming, sort of compare and contrast notes and talk about what we've done and what our response has been. Actually, because of this past season, we're actually planning on growing our budget this coming year as opposed to shrinking. So it's a really, really exciting time. And yeah, admittedly, I was petrified at the beginning of this, but now I'm just sort of like, bring it on, COVID-19. What you got for me?
I'm your biggest fan. No, really, yeah, Shaun, go ahead.
Okay, let's all just give him a little, some ass kicking going on there by Thom. Thank you so much. So I started a little chat in the room, and, you know, since I've been doing, you know, innovation and business development now for many, many years and working with arts organizations because it's something I'm passionate about, but I also work with business development, entrepreneurs, and all those areas. And the cultural scene right now has an opportunity unlike never could happen before if there was never COVID. Like never could happen before. And here's what it is, right? Your whole cultural scene is like, you don't want to share sponsors, do you? You don't want to share money. You don't want to share who gets the money and how they get the money, who getting the money from who, right? Because the economic justice space right now is hitting you hard. We talked about how justice is. You don't have justice without economic justice. You can't live. You can't pay your bills. You can't survive. Okay, so every organization out there is dependent on their sponsorship levels to exist as a nonprofit sector, as a local live sector, and they've been surviving on grants, monies given from corporations, people on that. Everybody in this room is holding a database on that. Everybody is holding a database and no one wants to share it. But in a post-COVID world, you don't have the choice of thinking the old way. You're going to have to reinvent that. You're going to have to reinvent how you get access to capital. And when I talk about that in the social space, when I work with women entrepreneurs, minority entrepreneurs, they're like, say, I can't get access to capital. Where can I get access to a VC? How can I get money? Here in San Diego and all over California, you're sitting with those entities in your backyard. Hera Hub sits in your backyard. They have a whole investment area of women right now giving money to women to start up. Anybody talking to them? How about the whole VCs in the tech sector? Anybody talking to them? In the creative sectors, shifting over to it. Because you have to do outside the thinking to think where the money is right now, who would support the arts, and who has access to capital. And this part right here is the biggest anxiety. I think it's the elephant in the room. For me, it's the elephant in the room in cultural arts in a post-COVID world. Because if the theaters close, the arts galleries close, they're closing because of money, aren't they? They don't have the money to keep open, right? So you have to hook the money sectors, right, specifically to the arts sectors. And you have to know who's on your side on the reverse end. And this is like, it gets into really deep conversation I'm having between political conversations, geopolitical conversations, and money access, right? And at the same time, what we're looking at, where people are looking at, they don't have access to things, there are people making billions of dollars. Everybody can agree right now, there are people making billions of dollars right now in this pandemic. Huge money. Amazon's making huge money. Netflix is making huge money, right? Zoom is making huge money. And we're on it right now, right? The e-commerce sector is making huge money. The drone sector is about making huge money, sits in our back door. Drones are being developed here. The biotechnical systems all being developed in San Diego. Biomedical, all being developed in San Diego. They got boards of directors, they got investors, they got all those things sitting in our backyard. And I'm just talking about, I'm talking San Diego, but I'm talking big picture, right? Also, like global picture, because you don't have to work with just anybody in San Diego. You can work with somebody, an investor in Paris, or an investor, you know, in Dublin, Ireland, or wherever you want to work with in the cultural world. You this world right now is open to you, unlike never before if you think outside the box. But in the local microcosm, it is huge and it is big. We've got Sony, we've got Qualcomm, we've got all these corporations that need to commit to the arts and do it now, okay? Because if they love our community, what makes us rich and beautiful, our diversity, our culture that we have in our restaurants, our whole thing that makes us such a beautiful community to live in is at jeopardy. And they have a responsibility to that because they made their money here and we made them their money here. All the community here was made by that. So if I get passionate about it, because it's there, I know it's ridiculously true. They're not doing, those people are not doing badly. They're not at all doing badly. I'm putting it out there because I'm putting out the rub to talk about innovation, because when we talk about what we don't have, we're going to get more of it. If we talk about what we can get, we're going to get more of that.
Thank you. That's interesting. You know, I think my wheels are definitely turning. You know, there, for example, Kai, who works in, you know, art and science, often, you know, looking toward the science sector, or if you're, you know, working with social justice, potentially you could be partnering with organizations that deal with that, you know, support, that have similar values that potentially are a corporate client or a corporate contact, but you know that they are backing social justice issues, for example. You know, the concept of this entire conversation that I wanted to bring about is that, again, we're only 7 months into this, right? And we have another year at least to go. And so if we've survived this far, it might have been sort of, it wasn't because of planning, right? Because we've been working off the cuff, all of us. But now that we know the truth, you know, that we're probably going to be in this for another year, then now we can plan. We can plan in that way. And so here we are. Again, we can't do this on our own. So the pre-COVID thinking of like, let's not share our donor lists. I mean, I can see that stress. I get it. You know, I feel the same. Or I don't think our donors want their information shared. I get it. But you do have other lists, you know.
Let me get in on that, because I think that's the rub. Sharing, you can make a collaborated collective that's only about that, and where they all get to talk to each other. Then that gets weird. That gets crazy, because then it's all these money people talking to other money people about the arts. Well, then that becomes more than what you need, not less than what you need, more than what you need.
I'm thinking. I mean, you know, Shaun
Could you
got me
elaborate
thinking.
on that, Shaun?
Yeah.
The less, it becomes more than what you need instead of less than what you need when you put the money people together?
Okay, so when we put, throughout this whole area, people have a list of sponsors that have supported their groups over the years, either financially or through resources, right? And you could probably, if you started to collectively look at that data, you could see overlaps. Maybe there's certain, you know, Qualcomm is supporting some of these people in the room. Maybe the theater in La Jolla is being supported by some people, but there's overlap. They're supporting other people as well, you know, either through the financial sectors or through the other access sectors through that. But there's no collaborative data of that going on collectively through all the arts community. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that those people in the sponsorship level don't always know that they can even work with those people. They just know you approach them and they can work with you and they support this, but they don't know this exists, right? Alone right now, Qualcomm has the money to make a fund to fund everybody in this town. So does Sony. They could put a fund together for $1 million right now if they wanted to. No problem. No problem. And Qualcomm by itself has a whole foundation for this. And then the foundation level, which I'm trying to talk about, you understand by law, by absolute law, foundations must spend the money because they have to record the money every year and the way it's filtered to the federal systems. Their foundation has been given money by wealthy people and they have to spend the money and then they have to show how they spent it. So that money is just sitting there. It hasn't disappeared, it's still there. Get more specific, right? I'm gonna get more specific. There's no collaborative data or history or collaboration between the sponsorship levels, the moneyed people into the arts. There's a collaboration going on here, which is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, of the arts community talking together, but nobody's talking about who's supporting them. I mean, everybody on your website, you probably see your sponsors, right? You act like some of that's private, but anybody like me, like a data science like me, I could collectively look at everybody's website and say, they're sponsored by this, sponsored by that, right? Because I'm a business strategist. I'm dangerous in that way, right? But what I'm trying to say is that you could have a collective that's tapped in and says, we need help and we need resources. And we have 100 collaborators in here that all have the money to do it. They all have the money to do it. They could say this gallery really it's not going to be able to stay open. We're going to help it stay open. This theater is not going to be able to stay open. We're going to help it stay open for the next year. And so, okay, wait, I'll let everybody talk. I broke out the conversation for a reason because that's my time on this part of this, okay?
You know, another model that it comes to my mind as you're talking about is sort of the Act Blue, the way the Democratic Party, while it's incredibly irritating, the way that there's this umbrella organization that has specificity to break out candidates. So if you imagine this fundraising coalition that has breakout, so you can preference your gift to a particular theater or a particular dance company, and yet you're part of this umbrella that's supporting the arts as a whole. That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, because you have these two areas. You have crowdfunding, which is big. I mean, if you can do a successful crowdfunding, you can raise a lot of money, obviously. That's the internet space has created the whole crowdfunding world. But you have the other world, you have the people that have been supporting the arts, but it's just not collectively organized.
I wonder what.
I want to connect some of the dots here.
Yeah.
Susanna, I want to just talk for a minute. I want to try to connect some of the dots here. I think that what we talked about earlier and several people mentioned was not just diversifying the audience or sharing audiences, but increasing the audience. And I think that that's what the potential is for this COVID period. We've all been talking about, and especially even Vanguard Culture, that we now have access to audiences that we never had before, including nationally and globally. So what about thinking about not just sharing resources between organizations, but creating one gigantic alliance of arts and culture institutions in San Diego? And we talked about, somebody mentioned also that we should be promoting ourselves nationally. I think there needs to be a group collective consciousness here. And that's a way to approach funding also, because whether you use the Act Blue analogy, which I support, or what Shaun's talking about, we would create an arts fund, a gigantic arts fund. There is city funding, but it's insufficient to support all of our industries. But I agree with Shaun, the money is there. We just have done it all piecemeal, and we have an opportunity right now to do it collectively that we didn't have before. And I'd really like to see that be somewhat of an outcome of these roundtable discussions that we're having.
Thank you. I think that this could be sort of a break-off conversation with some of the folks that are, professionals in the fundraising world. We have Cece, we have Victoria here in the room. Cece, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I would also just add, and this is just timeliness, that in 2 weeks, we have the Southern California Grantmakers Conference. I don't know if anybody on the call is planning to attend that conference. It's about 140 regional groups like dedicated to philanthropy, a lot of fundamentals of effective grant making going on. But also this year, especially with the virtual conference, a big idea behind this conference is how can we organize collectively across Southern California to advocate more effectively when it comes to corporate accountability and stewardship in that arena. So I know that heavily skewed toward Los Angeles and Riverside right now, but if anybody was thinking of joining that conference, I'll be at that conference. And I think it's a great way to kind of get more in touch with people who are looking at how we can join together to more effectively advocate for funding.
Yeah. So we're kind of rounding out the hour very soon. So I want to just, there's a lot to break down there, and in 10 minutes we won't be able to really get a resolution to that. I think it's important that we kind of go home, turn off, we're home, that we sort of, head back to our personal spaces and rethink the way that we've always done things, and revisit whether, our comfort levels with doing things a little bit differently. Of course, we want to, just to give a reaction to the conversation that was just had, there's a lot of, Victoria, I know that you probably have some input about this conversation. You're very connected to the fundraising and donor world and all of that, and we're needing those conversations right now. I love the idea of a collective of donors that are supporting the arts, so that they can start to have conversations with one another, because ultimately the inspiration will happen, for the passion will come through when all those people are in the same room together, and something will spark from that. I have no doubt. The deal is who's going to do that, how does that happen, right? The logistics of it, because yes, I am like I said, I started this conversation saying I'm a dreamer. I'm super naive, because I like to think that I can change the world, and I'm aware, I'm very self-aware of that. I'm very self-aware, but I'm also very pragmatic. So I like to dream those things, but also sort of think about the logistics of how to make that tangible. So people like Jack and Victoria and Cece and Shaun and Charlotte, who are connected to that sort of fundraising world, that donor world, might benefit from having a conversation, a side note kind of conversation about how could that even physically, logistically happen. And thank you for, continuing to add everything that you are, everybody's been so generous on the chat with their offerings and all of that stuff. I really appreciate you. The donor list is one thing, the reach, if you're looking to expand your reach and you're willing to share a portion of your lists, we will do the same, reciprocate with a portion of our list. It won't necessarily be our donor list. It'll just be like the whatever most active people that exist in our subscriber base. And that turns into 4, and then it turns into 6, and then it turns into 8, depending on whomever, is participating in this idea. We've done it before, and we've grown new audiences, and it's wonderful. People are exposed to things that they never would have sought out on their own. To close off these conversations, I'd like for you all to sort of think about the types of events that you would be interested in working with us for. We've been I didn't want to make this gathering about that. At first I thought that's what it was going to be about, and I lost sleep over it, and I over researched and I over prepared, and I just didn't know what to do, because you know, we're not going to make this on our own. I'm not specifically talking about Vanguard Culture, I'm talking about the arts community. When the world opens back up after 7 months of closures and uncertainty and stress and anxiety and loss of revenue and all those things, if we don't act intentionally and collaboratively and share resources and co-produce and co-promote and strategize, the creative community is not going to make it. When the world opens back up, there will be nothing to see. There will be nothing to open up to, you know. So therefore, you know, film festivals as an example, don't program on top of each other, you know, attend each other's events, cross promote each other's film festivals, for example, you know, plan your year just so that you're attending theirs and they're attending yours, and you're promoting theirs and they're promoting yours. Same thing with the theater community, same thing with the dance communities and film and all of these places. I mean, those are the types of intentional collaborations that need to be happening, so that you are supporting people that you have no stake in their success, but yet you kind of do. Because if theater audiences die, theater dies with it. If film audiences die, film dies with it. So we have to keep them inspired. Otherwise, they're going to have nothing to come back to when the world opens back up. Do we have any final thoughts? We have about 15 minutes, so I just want to like open it up to whatever's in your heart.
Can I jump on real quick? I don't, not just to speak about the collaboration in terms of fundraising. The other hat I wear is I've sat on the board for the last 4 years of the Patrons of the Prado, and we successfully raised $500,000 for the 10 beneficiaries and museums in Balboa Park. And I'm very familiar with the philanthropic community in that regard. And I have been able to sort of cross-pollinate what we do with film, both with the museums and what we do with film. And one of the things that we did very successfully this summer in terms of not getting the list of our donors was to basically have them promote. We did a Pop Up the Paddle, which was a play on our name, Patrons of the Prado. And every single museum jumped on board, and they sent out the event and promoted it very, it was a designated promotion, and we had tremendous success with it. So without having to tap into their donor base, we were allowed to at least reach their donor base. And we've done that several times with the film festival as well. You know, and you talked about creative collaboration, and that really, it is about how an organization sitting down and not just hiring, you know, a musician or a band, but talking about how you can do that. And part of that is the fundraising aspect. How is it going to financially benefit both groups, and how is it going to expand the audience of both groups? So there's a way to do that without encroaching and, you know, on someone else's benefactors or patrons, but you really do get, it's both sides win. There's no losers in this scenario. And you're right, Susanna, I think the future is collaboration. I think survival is collaboration. But we raised $250,000, and that was our beneficiaries. Museums have been closed. They were thrilled. So it can happen, and it can happen in a way that everyone wins. And, you know, and everybody, I mean, it was amazing to be able to write that check. So there's ways that fundraising can happen that you're really, and collaboration, where it's a win all the way around.
Anybody else? Victoria, did you have any thoughts about this?
I have a lot of, there's so much going on. Couple things, you know, we're following at the state level is the governor had recommended to add another $10 million to the California Arts Council budget. And when this COVID hit, that took, sort of fell off the table. But we had a webinar the other day, and our representative Lorena Gonzalez, who is the legislator who introduced AB5. And there is another proposal being looked at to make some additional adjustments in terms of what kind of help the state can give individual artists, what other exemptions can be written into the law. And she also made a commitment to support additional arts funding at the state level. So she's a really powerful legislator, that she represents San Diego. So we follow that. Another initiative we've been working on is the San Diego Arts and Culture Challenge. And it's a strategy to pull together some foundations and some funders and individual donors. We have 3 phases. First phase, we funded 32 small budget arts and culture organizations around the county. Phase 2, we funded 120 BIPOC artists with a $1,000 check. And now on phase 3, we're looking at some funding where we could provide support to, right now we're targeting mid-sized arts and culture budget organizations to find ways that we can help them in this transformation period. I did put in the chat, vote for those politicians, those policy leaders that support arts and culture. That's really important. And we're lucky in San Diego, we have a really strong arts supporting delegation. Thank you, Susanna, for letting me share those thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Was that correct what I heard Meridee say, that you raised $500,000 during the pandemic? Was that correct?
We raised $250,000. We raised $258,000. Mm-hmm.
In the middle of a pandemic, you raised $258,000. That's a correct statement?
Yes, it is. We actually had raised about close to about 80,000 of that pre-March. We host a huge foundation gala in the middle of July, and so we just continued it. We just brought it right into the summertime. We took it into a virtual paddle race, and we just put it out there and advertised it. And we have everything from corporate donors to individual donors to a lot of trust fund donors. But I will tell you, there's definitely people out there that are passionate about the arts and the sustainability of the museums in Balboa Park and the History Center and the Science Center. And a big pull of that too is the educational side of it. It's preserving our legacy in San Diego. It's really about finding what people are passionate about and then giving them the opportunity to write that check. Many of our organizations don't do enough to market or don't have their message down to such a clarity that people understand who and what you are. And I think that's the most important thing. People can't support you if they don't know who you are or where you are or what you do. And also, what are the results of what you do? What are your measurable results of all of your efforts? And so until you can quantify where their dollars are going, you're not going, people don't just give $10,000 if they don't know exactly where it's going. People these days, at least in the philanthropic world that I understand, and from what I've seen, they don't necessarily just want their name on a building anymore. There's a lot of social consciousness between also what they want to donate to, and they want to see the value in what, in what you all are creating. They want to know what's happening with that, and if they want to write the check to it, they want to have some sort of accountability as well. I know a lot of nonprofits aren't always very good at showing the flip side of what they do. We all love art and we all love the creative process, but unless you can quantify that in a measurable way, you probably won't get the donors that you need. So if that makes sense. But yeah, it's, again, people don't just write blank checks anymore. It just doesn't happen. But if they feel very passionate about something, it's also creating the opportunity for people to give. If you don't create those opportunity for people to give to your organization, then you're just missing out on that. That's like a whole, I agree with that. That's a whole nother side topic. But it's very important. That's one of the things that we're growing with the festival is our educational outreach. And it's not just about kids. Tons of seniors who are interested in, you know, screenwriting and acting and development and just a lot of artistic endeavors. They're retired, got a lot of time on their hands and a lot of money to spend. So it's, you know, you got to create those opportunities for people to plug into your organization in a way that benefits both of you.
It's really profound, that your statement. I don't think I can underestimate how profound that is in the middle of this crisis, that you were able to raise that kind of money. I think it's a very profound thing that most people in the community do not know exist or happened in the arts community, that you were able to do that. But it also should put us in a different frame of thought and a different frame of mindset. And of course, since I've been in business development for a long time, I've dealt with people that have money or don't have money or they're just doing startups. But I always know there's access to resources and capital just through alignments. And there's always just the right alignments that you need.
So I want to wrap this up. I want you to know that we are, like I said, we are creating a document. If you feel comfortable, I'd like to add your contact information to it so that we can all reach out to one another. We will create a document that also has whatever resources you know, the statement or whatever we were able to capture there that says, you know, I have film professionals or whatever, and then your contact information, and this list will grow. You won't get it immediately because we have a second session happening next Friday. And so we'll pool all of those resources, share them with you. If you want access to this video, again, it's not for public consumption, but you can sort of revisit it if you would like. So I'll post it in a private YouTube location and give you a link to it so you can just watch it and experience and sort of go back to it if you would like. I want to thank all of you for taking your time. I mean, I know you're such busy people and I value you so much for taking the time to do this. There's so much more to say. This is just like the tip of the iceberg. And, you know, session 2 has twice as many of the people that participated today. So I'm a little nervous about how we're even going to get through a conversation over there. I feel like I'm going to have to be a little more strategic about that, or maybe break it into a third session or something like that. But, you know, I hope that you got something out of this. Would you just indulge me and tell me if you got anything out of it? Maybe put it in the chat box or voice it or something. We might not have time to voice it, but if you just share and let us know. And maybe if there's anything else that we should have focused on that we missed, that we can attempt for round 2. Anything that you think we need to know, please let me know. So we'll be reaching out to you. Again, we want to work with every single one of you for 2021. We will not know what the theme of our season is until we know what happens in the election. We won't know. We're about to live through some crazy times in the next few months. It's going to get way harder before it gets easier, but we're here for you. You know, that's our entire mission and our passion is to support San Diego's creative industries. We want to make sure that after the pandemic is over, that San Diego has the ability to be a culturally thriving community, you know, and because right now we're in a virtual space, we have the ability to put San Diego on the map and to expand our audiences nationally and internationally. And so we are dedicated to that right now for 2021, creating virtual excellence, creative and cultural excellence, so that we can put San Diego on the map, and that when the world opens back up, they will be that much more willing to come and we'll have some cultural tourism here again, which will in turn turn into dollars back into our community, as you know. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you had a good time. I'm so thankful for you, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye, everybody. Thank you.